Middlekauff.
Hey, hips.
We are live on YouTube and recording straight into your podcasty little ears on this Tuesday. It's Giving Tuesday, John. It's good to have everybody. Good to see everybody. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to be seen, guys. It's good to be seen.
Giving Tuesday is a big deal, John. That is a big fundraising deal. Help people in need, and you can do that with our show. We have launched a fundraising campaign with No Kid Hungry. It is an awesome, awesome, awesome charity. We hope you will contribute. Whatever you can helps in the link of the YouTube, in the link on the podcast page, or just right now with your old thummy thumbs. Go to nokidhungry.org/ham. nokidhungry.org/ham, and let's make something happen here, because hunger is a major problem for about 1 of 6 kids at risk of going hungry in the U.S., and we can't have that, and we got to try and help.
Yep, nokidhungry.org/ham. We're approaching 18 G's. We're trying to get to 25. Keep hammering this home. Anything you can do will help. All tax deductible as well. So nokidhungry.org/ham. We are trying to feed children, guy. We are trying to impact this world in a positive way, and you can't. If it doesn't hurt your heart thinking about the millions of kids in this country, let alone the world, that aren't eating, let alone this state. I guess we got people listening all over the country, but state of California, I mean, we got some financial issues here. We need to help some people out, and so nokidhungry.org/ham.
nokidhungry.org/ham. They work with schools. They work with local nonprofits. They work with local, I like this word, John, municipalities. And what they do is they improve programs. They make sure that healthy kids need the food they need to thrive. And they make sure that families have access to meals when they need to go find meals for their children, which is, I mean, what better cause is there? So $1 can provide up to 10 meals. So that means $50 can provide up to 500 meals. We want to raise, it's a lofty goal. We want to raise 25,000, and we need your help to get there. So on this day, Giving Tuesday, on any day between now and the end of the year, I know this is a time of year where a lot of people have, you got a lot of financial commitments to a lot of different places, holidays, travel, family, fill in the fridge for whatever you got going on and all that kind of stuff. But if you can find any way to cut a little out for nokidhungry.org, go to nokidhungry.org/ham. And that is tax deductible.
I realized we were going to show my numbers.
Yes, you just showed your credit card on the stream.
On the front, it just says the new cards.
Gotcha.
So just the numbers are on the back.
Gotcha. Boop, boop. I was just able to QR code that bad boy through the screen. I got Middlekauff's access now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you got to be careful with that crap.
nokidhungry.org/ham. Please, 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 whatever you can do, go do whatever you can do, and it's really appreciated. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The other thing, I feel like sometimes I feel like I'm a principal. Yeah. What?
I mean, I don't know if you're going to hammer this home, but we need shave it or save it pictures.
Yes.
So you have to DM us, or you can email us at Guy Haberman or I guess not at jmiddle75 at Gmail, Guy Haberman at Gmail. Email us pictures, DM us the pictures. Probably sometimes in the DMs it can get lost a little easier, but we'll find it in the DMs. Probably a little harder to tweet at us. So probably Instagram DM us or email us. My email's on, is yours on your Twitter as well?
Yep.
Yeah. So open book here. Need some pictures. One comment on YouTube was like, "You guys are so sophomoric," and I started thinking, it's like, sophomoric? Fucking kids don't lose their hair in high school, right? What are you talking about? No, this is a real world issue.
I responded. We're being childish.
Yeah. This guy was a mass, kind of an angry. I looked at his history of comments, so he fit the bill of kind of a,
I only come to YouTube for the most serious content.
Yeah.
Why are you not taking this thing where you evaluate people's hairlines more seriously? There's like 9 trillion videos. Go watch another video. I don't know. You click the video.
I know. We're living proof. One of us has great hair. The other is completely bald. So we're just trying to help people out. I've been there. Yeah. You haven't.
But I watched you go through it, John, firsthand.
I know.
I was spotting you money for TCBY because you were spending so much money on your hair restoration products.
I know. It was expensive. Still is. Still
Yeah,
is.
but we need you. We've been helping people. Maybe, I don't know. It depends if they take our advice. But you're right. We do need.
We need a guy.
Yeah,
Need some pictures.
We need some pictures. So send us some pictures. Shave it or save it. Preferably yourself. But if you got somebody else who need some help in their life, maybe we could launch an intervention. Maybe that's a side business we could launch. You pay us for hair interventions for somebody you love.
Yeah, and then if you're going to keep it, shave it, or if you're going to save it, then maybe Haberman, you can get on his payment plan with his barber in the city.
Yeah, deadline's coming up for that decision, but we'll get to that. All right, John. Let's
tax deductible or no?
Haircuts?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I think it's a business expense.
Even though it kind of is, right? You get your hair cut for television.
Yeah, but like you can't. I remember you can't deduct ties you buy or sport coats or.
Which is kind of bullshit, isn't it?
Yeah, because I wouldn't buy a tie anywhere.
No, I wouldn't either.
John, we're sponsored by Tito's Handmade Vodka, the #1 vodka in America. Tito's is not only a great vodka, John, it's a great company. Our No Kid Hungry campaign, Tito's has donated $5,000 to our No Kid Hungry campaign, which we appreciate from them. By the way, Puesto donated $2,000 to that campaign as well. So Tito's Handmade Vodka. It's the holiday season. It's time to be merry and cheery and responsible. Do it with Tito's Handmade Vodka.
Yep. Tito's, go get yourself a bottle at your local, CVS. You maybe go to, Safeway, Bevmo, wherever you go. Nugget, Albertsons, they still exist. Get yourself a bottle. Share it with your friends. And you guys know the drill. If you're out drinking, send us pictures of your Tito's wherever you are. At home, watching games with your buddies, at dinner, having a cocktail with your girlfriend or your wife, on vacation. You do it. We're there. Love it.
How about the guy that sent us a photo from, was he in Cabo the other day? Did you see that photo? Somebody sent us their John Daly.
People are living, guy. People are living. You ever been to Cabo?
I've never been to Cabo.
Neither have
I've
I.
never been to Cabo.
I've seen a lot of pictures. It looks pretty cool, though.
Albertsons owns Safeway now, apparently. Tito's Handmade Vodka, John, the original craft vodka in America. Tito Beverage himself built his own distillery, couldn't get investors, so he racked up 19 credit cards, acquired the first legal distillery in Texas, started pouring for free at fundraisers. It is deep in Tito's blood, John, being a part of the community. They're a great part of the community. They could be a great part of whatever party you're having or whatever hangout you're having. Distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas. 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly. When you belly up to the bar, there's only one order. Tito's and John Daly with Tito's. Yeah.
Tulum. I've always wanted to go to Tulum. See a lot of chicks I follow on the old Instagram. It just seems like a lot of cool people end up in Tulum. A lot of girls.
It's been hot. Yeah. We are also sponsored by MyBookie.ag, promo code Hammer, the #1, where we got to find a lock of the week. We have won 11 of 12. That's one way of saying it. You could also say we'd won 11 in a row and lost last week with our lock. We had BYU to cover 7 against USC. We also had a little parlay on the side with the Niners over, the Steelers and 4 points, and
Colts.
So that did not hit either. But we're back, undeterred. We started with $150 a piece, $300. We almost got to 5,000. Now we're back down to what, about 43? Where are we in the?
43.50.
43.50. So MyBookie.ag, promo code HAM1 will there match that deposit up to $1,000. You can also decline the bonus because if you accept the bonus, you do have to just be aware you have to bet the full amount before you can withdraw funds. But either way, let them know we sent you with code HAM1. And we got some decisions to make.
Did you do the Utah State game last week?
Utah State, New Mexico.
What was the final score there?
Ooh, I mean, the last quarter, probably not as locked in on the scoring. It was like maybe 30-something to 10, something like that, 30-something to 7.
Utah State kicked their ass, right?
Yeah.
So Utah State's not bad?
Utah State's not bad.
San Diego
Blake
State.
Anderson, who's their coach from Arkansas State, the only first-year coach to win 9 games this year. Good quarterback.
San Diego State's pretty good. Okay, so +6. You like Utah State +6? Because the Mountain West game is Who did?
Utah State's quarterback got, hurt, kinda. If the game was close, he probably would have stayed in, but I don't know what his situation is.
Okay, pretend I'm not not touching San Diego State, Utah State then.
Okay.
Because you texted me today, and it kind of got my juices flowing. The Trojans are playing the California Golden Bears.
That's right.
In Memorial Stadium. Probably not going to be a great crowd. But Lincoln Riley, I would guess, is going to be there, right? On the sideline watching the team.
I was wondering about that. My first reaction was Lincoln's definitely going to be there. So he's not going to fly in the team plane, right? That'd be kind of awkward, or would
be
that
weird.
Not be
weird.
So would he have to fly like him and come in a separate jet? I'm not positive he's going to be there.
Well, he could hit, Folsom De La Salle Friday night. Come up here to recruit. Boom.
Good call.
You said USC +4.
Yeah.
Cal has nothing to play for. They just got curb stomped by Chip Kelly. USC doesn't necessarily either, but if Lincoln's standing there, you fucking want to earn your keep.
Yeah, so I'm a little surprised it's +4. Is it +155 USC to win? Is that what you have? Oh, I guess I can look. I got it right here.
That's what I see, guy.
Yeah,
+155.
So my theory when I texted you is what happened was I saw Lincoln say something about like going to practice. So I could only SC might have the best week of practice it's had all year, because if Lincoln's out there evaluating these guys.
Well, and if you're an assistant coach, you're going to try to keep your job, right? Coach your ass off when he's staring at you, coaching positions. Get out!
Absolutely.
Keep your steps moving. Hands up. Come on, drive.
Yeah. Fast, physical, fanatical. So, yeah, man. Cal 2 weeks ago when this game got rescheduled 3 weeks ago, it was because Cal wanted badly to play it. They needed to win last week for this game to then matter so they could become bowl eligible. That's out now. Now, college football is kind of bananas. And SC last week,
But I actually give them credit. They fought BYU, right?
I do too. So I like that game because part of it is there's not a lot of, and I don't, from an NFL standpoint,
a lot of big spreads, guy, that I noticed.
Minnesota -7 at Detroit.
No.
I'm not Houston.
I'm not into these big minus double-digit points.
How about Houston +9 at home against the Colts?
We're going to bet on the Texans.
They've been value all year. Chargers +3 at the Bengals.
I just don't really trust Brandon Staley right now. Yeah, it's risky.
Rams -13 at home.
You trust them right now?
No, I don't trust. But I don't. Who do I trust?
What's the Chiefs? -10. You could have Broncos
Sunday night against Denver.
Oh yeah, they got flexed.
I don't have a Niners line here.
I know it's not up.
Huh. Is Russ going to be out or something?
It's a little weird. Keep your fingers crossed.
Are we sure Gino? Who's there? Is Gino still their backup?
Yeah, Gino's their backup. I'm not opposed, guy, to just going USC money line at Cal. USC money line.
Yeah. No, I think that to me the bet would be money line, even though the points is value. But if it's +155,
500 pay 775. We'd be right back in the mix, guy.
We're in the mix right now. We should do.
We're doing good.
Yeah.
I think this is a great value bet.
I do too. The Lincoln Riley effect.
It's weird because you have all these games that are for the conferences, and then on my bookie it says right in. It's an absolute meaningless game that I will care more about than all the other games.
Yeah, what is that about?
Well, because I was thinking like Michigan, Ohio. Let's just say Michigan. You see Harbaugh's giving all of his money. He could hit $2 million of bonuses in 2 weeks. But are they just gonna beat this team 30-10, or is this game just a little closer and they win it by 10 and they still don't cover? Because Iowa to me is like the poor man's version of what Harbaugh has built. Do you trust Michigan -10.5?
I don't trust Michigan. Period. I don't trust Harbaugh.
Indy, I think, right? That game's at the Colts Stadium usually.
But I do think they're much better. To me, Iowa, the physicality of Michigan's run game, I just don't think Iowa can hang with that. But I think Jim is a bit of a roller coaster, but I just think his team is really solid right now. Then to win that game they won last week, the way they won it.
No, I know. Georgia, Alabama. I don't think this Alabama team's as good as years past, but you're getting Nick Saban, SEC championship game, almost getting a touchdown. It's pretty crazy. Now, that game, they might lose by 28-10, but Saban plus 6.5 against Kirby, who he owns. I don't love that, though. To me, that's more of a stay away. I'm placing the bet. USC?
All right, do it.
Money line.
Yep.
We just bet on a team that has no coach against another team that might not even have who even knows.
Game it's the only regular season game being played this week. Now you can say there's something on the line in every game this weekend. Championship games and the ham lock.
Can the Trojans make a bowl game or no?
No.
That's pretty crazy. I guess.
Yeah.
Did they almost want that a little bit though when they fired Clay, just to bottom out a little? I guess in college, like you don't need to bottom out. You don't get draft picks, right?
I don't think so. I don't think you want that. No.
Were they hoping to?
Because at minimum, you're like, yeah. Because at minimum, empty stadium's bad for business.
You see Lincoln point at that thing yesterday.
Did you see the people collecting trash in the background at one point? Did you see that?
I was laughing. Well, at first I thought it was a guy running stairs.
I did too, which would have been a good move. If you're like, who is that? Oh, it's Jackson Dart running stairs. Oh, did you guys? There's a press conference over there. I didn't know. Little old me. It's over here running stairs. But did somebody get on the phone?
Why does Jackson Dart paint his face like that?
I've seen a few guys do that. Like the one side, like it's
Braveheart
or something.
I mean, I think Lincoln's just going to roll with that guy, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, they'll be fine.
He's a good player. He might have just hit the jackpot.
Big
Jackson Dart.
Yeah.
A lot of those guys, the guys that'll stick around. This has been. I've had some takes the last couple of days, some statements about college football and Lincoln Riley to SC, and I don't want to be hyperbolic. I think about it before I say it. So I'm not saying it's the craziest or anything like that, but this has been banana. Like this Sunday, Monday, Tuesday after the college football regular season has been nuts. I mean, Brian Kelly just left Notre Dame while they're still kind of in the CFP race to go coach LSU. No, yeah, kind of. You're right, kind of. To go coach LSU. I'm still reeling for Oklahoma and SC on the Lincoln Riley thing. I mean, it's
would Brian Kelly have left if they had beat Cincinnati and they were undefeated right now and in the top 4?
I mean,
they gave him $95 million,
but
he did it at Cincinnati once upon a time. They were undefeated and going to a BCS game. A little different.
He would have left. I mean, but if he would have, I mean, it depends. Like, did he think his team could win a CFP game?
Well, I mean, history would say no.
So, yeah, especially if they're going to end up playing really Georgia or something like that. How did they play Georgia? Remember they played at Georgia? Was that 2 years ago? They played at Georgia
in a great game. Georgia went to Notre Dame and beat them.
Yeah,
they just don't match up that well against the SEC because they don't have the pass rushers and they don't have always the skill guys. Even though they sneaky put more wide receivers in the league than you think. And they just haven't been dynamic enough on offense. But they have been my fundamental philosophy on coaching. And I think the West, I'll pivot a little bit. I do think it's easier to be an outsider over here as long as your personality and just like you kind of can mesh with the people. Because I do think you're ultimately going to be recruiting the majority of California kids. Like Pete crushed it in Southern and Northern California. The best players in the most fruitful and the Central Valley, right? The best players in California, Pete landed. But when he was humming, he also landed the guys in the outside states. I am a big believer that your personality and where you're from in college does matter. And Brian Kelly isn't just an outsider to the South. Like, he's a lifetime Northeasterner. Born in Massachusetts, coached in Michigan at Grand Valley State, then went to Central Michigan, and then went to Cincinnati, and then went to Notre Dame. Like, that is not SEC territory. And we had a buddy that was a good coach who was not losing at Florida. And Jim McElwain is not a Southern guy, even though he won national championships, or maybe just won one, at Alabama. Like, he was Nick Saban's first offensive coordinator that won a national championship. And it was a really big deal. and it got him a head coaching job. But he got that Florida job, and he was an outsider from the jump. He went to SEC championship games, and they fucking hated him. And he is a nicer guy than this guy, just in dealing with random people. LSU's going to be better, right? Just in terms of he's going to inherit better players than I think Mac inherited. But I don't know, man. I don't love, to me, Lincoln, he'll be okay, right, in California.
Yeah, it's a weird fit.
The Brian Kelly thing. But I admire both of them leaving because I think both of them did not have to leave. They had cushy, sweet jobs. And both of them put their kind of nuts on the table for national championships, right? Both of them made the move. I think I can win a national championship here. Not sure I can do it here.
Yeah.
Actually, we know, right? Notre Dame and Oklahoma, I don't think, as currently constructed, you can win national championships.
It'd be one thing if they hadn't made the playoff yet, but they've made the playoff multiple times, and they've been not on the same level.
I think combined, the two of them have made the playoffs 5 or 6 times because Lincoln's made
Oklahoma's
0-3. Yeah, Kelly's been there at minimum multiple times.
Yeah,
has he been there multiple times? I guess he played Alabama pre-playoff, huh? Got his ass kicked.
BK.
Yeah, remember that with Manti Te'o, and they got Alabama beat the shit out of them.
Hey, Manti. That's right.
Yeah, but he's definitely he's definitely made the playoffs once, right?
Yes. Oh yeah. I thought it was twice.
Maybe he has twice. Yeah. I mean, they've had 4 straight 10-win seasons in Notre Dame.
I mean, the Lincoln thing is. We talked about it the other day. Kalen DeBoer got hired at Washington. John, I think I watched his press conference today. I think he's going to do a really good job. People, you dubbed a couple. I saw buddy who's a Washington fan texted me. And he's like, I don't like the hire. I said, did you like Jimmy Lake? He said, yeah. I said, well, if you like Jimmy Lake, you can't be mad about this not having enough sizzle because the Jimmy Lake hire had plenty of sizzle, a ton of sizzle. And what did it get you? I think they just hired a really good football coach.
He used Fresno State a little bit, but it is what it is.
I don't know. Did he?
Yeah, I mean,
just because you left, you used them.
Maybe used as strong. And again, I'm biased on this one. He had one good year. One good year.
But he was good as Indiana's offensive coordinator, and he was good as Fresno State's offensive coordinator, and Tedford vouched for him.
But I would say historically, and times have changed now. Historically, smaller schools, you had to build up a couple good years, right? A couple 9, 10-win seasons. He did not win the conference. He did not even win his division. I am pro this guy, even though I've never met him or know much about him really. But, a lot of guys that have had one-hit wonders, your one-hit wonder typically has to be 11-1, win your he didn't.
Yeah.
Guy, he's not in the Mountain West Championship game.
I know.
I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah, I understand. I understand. I think he qualifies as a guy that's been successful everywhere he's been. And he hasn't been at Fresno that long, but it does feel in some ways like he's been there a while because he was there as an offensive coordinator, and they won. I think he's going to be really solid. I think it's going to be good. Now, the recruiting is going to be the question for me. I think the football aspect is, but that's everybody's question.
And again, this is my pushback a little bit on when people ask me about DeBoer. He did inherit probably one of the more loaded non-Power 5 teams in the country, correct? I mean, they had an NFL quarterback. They had loaded skill guys.
Sure.
Why? Because Jeff Tedford's one of the greatest recruiters the West Coast has ever seen. I was talking to someone,
and they got Jake Haener specifically, who was a Tedford.
What Tedford brought, but I was just talking to my cousin Nick yesterday, who played football at UCLA, kind of right in the beginning of the Pete Carroll era, and Jeff Tedford, some of the Chris Peterson guys, kind of like that overachiever, Will Cox, they go for a Kellen Moore type guy. We were laughing Jeff Tedford is the opposite of wants overachievers, right? He wants 5-star blue chip, absolute ass kicking NFL futures players.
Yeah.
And, that is, Sark could coach, but Sark could recruit when he was there because when Pete got there, he did inherit a roster full of NFL players. And it'll be interesting to see, is he going to inherit a pretty good roster at Washington?
I think there's some talent there. Now, I think they might, this was one of the reasons people thought Washington was going to be good was that they were bringing guys back who were coming back, and guys we're coming back for one more year. It's okay, yeah. But they brought a lot of people back. That's why they were Phil Steele had him as his surprise team of the year. Didn't happen, but part of it was their offensive line was coming back. They had corners coming back. So I think they're going to lose some guys, but I'm not.
What was
exactly
their problem?
Sure
Their
what
offense was just inept.
Yeah, all over the place. They had the number one pass defense in the nation. Number one pass defense, but they're going to lose at least one of those corners. So
yeah, it'll be interesting.
But it's college
Riley,
football,
baby. I know, it's crazy.
I mean, who is USC going to be able to offload his house that they bought? And is that thing real? The story that they bought both his Norman homes for $500,000 over asking.
100%.
Here's what doesn't make sense about that person's story. Because did that person say they bought him a $6 million house in LA?
Well, they're two separate transactions.
Right. But that person also said they bought him USC bought him a $6 million house in LA.
They were going to purchase his house in LA. Yeah.
Gotcha. Which to me, I don't know if the $6 million house is big enough for his family coming from Norman. He might need like a $10 million house. So it might be one of his two homes.
I was on a text thread thinking like that sounds good in theory, but you would want, to me, that number should have been 10. I think what happened is he had just built a 12,000 square foot monstrosity in Norman, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
There is no market for that. Like
no,
that's
it's just the next football coach is the market for that.
Yeah, and if his wife doesn't like it, they are not able to sell it. So USC, to me, what's funny is everyone freaked out. Like I looked at that's not to these big institutions, money's all relative. That's nothing. And to me, the $6 million house, there is a chance, guy, that it is just some huge booster who's a real estate guy, owns a bunch of house. The house is actually a $10 million home. Hey, I'll sell it to this USC club for $6 and fucking take it.
Exactly. I think athletics, like there are a lot of homes that are owned and used and at all levels of athletics. I promise you it's not the only house SC owns.
No.
Or somebody who helps SC owns. So $6 million. I was on Lindsay Rhodes, remember from NFL Network. She's a USC alum. I was on her podcast yesterday, and I was DMing her because I said, "What a $6 million house?" I asked, "Where's he going to live?" She's like, "Well, he'll probably live in Manhattan Beach. It's like 30 minutes. That's where So I said, "Well, what does $6 million get?"
That's where Lane lived and Sark lived.
Yeah, she said that's generally where those guys probably will live, and I think she lives there. She knows the area. And so she started sending me like $6 million homes. I started looking at them, and I'm telling you, like, the Rileys are gonna walk in and be like, this living room's too small. Like, our neighbors are too close. And I said, I don't know anything about that market. My advice to Lincoln would be buy a $10 million home. And she's like, well, here's what 10 gets you. And now you got some space. You're still close to the ocean. Again, these are like beach. We're talking like ocean, walk to the ocean homes, but still like $10 million. So either Lincoln got what you talking about, a $10 million house for $6, or it's one of his two homes, like, get one closer to the, $6 million, buy the stadium or buy the facility and then like the real family house. Because if he owned two homes in Norman, why doesn't he need two in Norman?
Well, because he would just finish completing the 12,000 square foot home.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
He was living in the other home, so he hadn't sold the other home yet, which is probably more sellable. Let's say that's a $1.5 million house. He's like, well, I give his agent credit. Like, I wouldn't even think about that. Hey, just take the two homes off. Like, I was going to sell this for $1.5 million. This cost me $3 million. Will you just reimburse me $4.5 million? They said, no, you pick the price and we will go 500 over. That is an incredible, and part of it is like, he just had all the juice. He had all the negotiating power. Just like when you see Brian Kelly, these schools did not want to go like to other, like, to me, Lincoln Riley was LSU's top choice. They were USC's top choice. Brian Kelly was, to me, pretty clearly probably LSU's second choice. Do you agree with that? Like, they were not, like, going to go kind of random people.
No, their AD is pretty structured, I think.
And I think the going rate, like, we have seen that $95 million, and maybe Mel Tucker early on was in that mix too, but it does feel like he bowed out, I would say, 3 or 4 weeks ago. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it felt like in 10 minutes he bowed out.
But doesn't it feel like that 95 number was just kind of the sweet spot that everyone was using off other people? Because Kelly got it. Mel Tucker got it. Lincoln's like, hey, guys, you're going to 95. I'm going to need fucking more than that to move across the country to tax haven and a place where $6 million doesn't even get me a big home. So they had to give him the 110 and then all this other sweet shit. And the jet, think about what is the private jet for unlimited use? So it's like his wife, like, I want to go to Pebble Beach this weekend. Like, okay, let's roll.
Well, are you watching Succession right now?
Yeah.
I caught up on like 3 episodes. I'm not all the way to I think it's like season 3, episode 7. I'm like at like episode 4. But there's like a big negotiation. I don't think I'm gonna spoiler alert anything for anybody. And one of the contentious things is like, no more use of the PJs. And they're like, they want to take the PJs. First they come for your PJs, then they take your children. You know, it was a big point. I don't know. Have you seen that episode yet?
I saw that, and the guy clearly was just fucking with him, right?
Just to fuck with him.
Yeah. And yeah. I think that is one. You could have just, hey, I'll sell my house at a loss. Give me the unlimited PJ. Unlimited. Like, oh, what do you want to do this weekend? Oh, you want to go play golf in Idaho at Coeur d'Alene? Let's do it. You know, like his wife's gonna be like, oh, I want to go shopping in San Diego. Yeah, we don't need to drive. Hop in the jet. That to me is an incredible, because most coaches' contracts, even a lot of like CEOs, you get a limited amount for family stuff, right? You get unlimited for work, but they may give you 50 hours for family. That unlimited, like, we don't ask questions around here. I want to go to New York for the weekend with my family. We're going. And tell the pilot to be ready in 20, because I'm ready right now.
Like, well, actually, the president needed the jet. Well, time to make a switch.
Good thing with the Trojans, they probably have multiple jets. And this is what really, obviously, you do a lot of stuff with the Pac-12. I consume a lot of Pac-12. I've been saying for a long time, we can't keep complaining about money on the West Coast. Now, I understand like Washington State or Oregon State, like there are going to be some programs that are not going to be able to compete with LSU or Michigan or Ohio State. But USC cannot even act like UCLA or Arizona State. You have too many fucking resources, and this is where I give them credit. They clearly were on board that if they could get the right guy, they were willing to just empty the tank. And to them, at the end of the day, they didn't really empty the tank. This is, as a text thread I'm on, this was a rounding error for them. This is not that big a deal. And I'm just glad they used it, because you have to say this about the Big Ten and the SEC. Those programs, not just the top program, but there are 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 programs that are in the mix, are all operating like this. Like LSU, obviously they had a bad year, but I mean, right now they would be 3rd or 4th in the hierarchy in their conference, right? Alabama, Georgia, and even A&M, the way they've been spending money. Now, they're not winning, but...
Well, there's a level of coach where there's not a negotiation. And there's not, when it comes to Lincoln Riley at USC, there's not a lot of negotiation. Like, did USC say no to anything? If that list of things is true,
I bet he felt like it. I bet his agent probably pushed him to ask for more shit, and you probably
like, how many country club memberships do I need? I got 3. I don't know what he got, but I'm sure there's a country club membership, at least one.
Oh yeah.
That gets thrown in. I mean, but that's pretty typical.
Where would you go?
Is it Beverly Hills? What's the one that Al
Yeah,
Michaels
but I mean, but what about Marky Mark, Riviera? They have PG. I'd be like, well, can I get Riviera too? LA Country Club's hosting the U.S. Open. I'd be like, I've heard that's pretty sweet. You know,
what's the Al Michaels one? Is that Beverly Hills where him and OJ were supposed to play golf?
I thought it was Brentwood. Doc was his partner.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's 4 that I think if you start asking around, they all had Sherwood Country Club. I think has some moments.
I don't think you'd have a problem. Getting into any of them. Well, you know what?
It'd be hard. I'd be like, hey, could you just get me into 5? Like, I'll keep it at 5. Just give me the 5 best ones.
I'm trying to remember the home course. Is it Sherwood? That's what one would make sense. The USC golf team has a sick home course. Rolling Hills, maybe? I don't know.
Well, did you see the Instagram the other day? My brother forwarded to me of the 360 panoramic around Wayne Gretzky's house.
No.
He has this mansion in LA that is incredible at the top of the hill. Well, it's on a golf course, and I'm on this thread with my brother and a couple other guys. I'm like, what course is that? And it was Sherwood Country Club, and it looks. I mean, I've heard of it, but I've never been there or anything. It looked pretty fucking incredible.
That's probably not his only membership either.
No.
All right, we a lot to get to. I think one thing. Let's talk about the Niners from a Seahawks perspective, because Monday Night Football was pretty eye-opening.
You want me to? Is my connection good?
You just kind of froze for a second, but now you're back.
I see that little thing again. Should I come back? Let me come back. It's a little risky. Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, go away. Come back. That's fine. We'll edit this part out of the podcast. Let's make a note of that. Middlekauff disappeared at the 34:30 mark. Might be your boy. It might be me. I don't know. But I think I know what we're going to talk about. is not just the Niners themselves, but kind of the eye-opening nature of what happened on Monday Night Football, seeing Russell Wilson get beat, get sacked, the way he got sacked on that last drive, which was almost the game-time drive. I thought once he threw the touchdown to get him within 2, now they're going to win the game. But I tweeted earlier in the game that Russ just is not, his escapability is not there. I mean, if I told you Russell Wilson's hurt, you'd think that meant he had like a leg injury or a foot injury or something, not a finger. Why can't he escape? Why can't he run away? Why can't he make plays with his legs? And then for him to get sacked the way he got sacked on that second down play, I think it was the second play of that final drive, where the defender raced up 58, comes up and just shoves him in the chest and throws him down like he never thought. It was bizarre. Max, Wilson looks old. Yeah, I mean, he looks old. He looks kind of big. I hate to talk about whether or not somebody looks totally engaged when you're losing, because when you're losing, you're not running around pumping your fists and high-fiving people, so it can kind of look like that anyway. I think we can, kind of overstate it. I've always felt that way with baseball, that like people get mad when a team's not hitting. They're not hustling. Well, yeah, they're not hitting. So what do you want? It's all about racing to first base on a slow chopper to second. Like, who is that really doing anything for? And I think, I said this a few weeks ago when we were talking about Kyle Shanahan's body language too, that just gets, you can be overstated a little bit. Middlekauff has come back. So we can dive into Russ, but it's you feeling good over there?
Good, yeah. It just makes me nervous when I saw that little thing, because last time that it happened, but now it's gone.
You were freeze city. So, all right. So before we get to the Niners-Seahawks matchup and Deebo and something Kyle Shanahan said that was very interesting, watching Russell Wilson on Tuesday night was pretty eye-opening. It's not the first time you've watched Russell and thought, yeah, he doesn't quite get away like he used to. But I thought it was really eye-opening last night that he just wasn't escaping that Washington defense. And that was before he got shoved to the ground in that last drive that actually he ended up driving down the field and, getting them within 2. But what did you think just watching him? Does he look off? Do they look off? I mean, they're 3-8 now?
Yeah, man, I just think he looks terrible. Their team looks terrible. He looks like he's injured. They just don't look very good. They're the worst version of Seattle we've ever seen. I mean, I don't even think it's close. Obviously, their record speaks for itself. They're 3-8. I mean, they're not only not going to the playoffs. I mean, their draft pick right now is in the top 5. Top 5. That's I honestly I tweeted this last time,
but it's not theirs.
I'm kind of at a loss watching them, because obviously they pulled games out of their ass the last several years, and I think all of us, it crossed our mind they were going to pull that game, from the depths of their crevices. But to me, they never even felt when they were pulling games out they were a 3-8 team. Right? I mean, guy, you're 3-8. They're headed for 5-12. Like that's the path they're on. It's crazy to watch as West Coast, NFC West people that have just consumed so many of their random games. We obviously watch a lot, them versus the Niners, them versus the Rams, them versus the Cardinals, because they play a lot of those games in prime time and they matter. But how many times have you watched them against random teams? Shitty ones. They're always in tight games. They always pull it off. And when they play better opponents, they've always won. I mean, it feels over. And part of it, like, you're allowed a bad season. Part of it feels like the carryover from the offseason. It just, Pete 70, Russell doesn't really like him. They hired this offensive coordinator, Waldron from the Rams. It clearly hasn't worked. Now, Russell's hurt right now, but he just, I just looked up his stat line last night. It looks better, 21-30 for 240 yards, 2 touchdowns. It didn't feel that way. Now, I bet he, gained probably 60 plus 70 yards on that last drive. But man, I don't know. What do you think?
I thought it was stunning. I'm with you. And I've been thinking about this for a couple of weeks, because I've had this thought in my head that like nobody hates offensive coordinators like Seattle. Washington fans have only had one good one in who knows how many years with Jonathan Smith. They hated their guy the last 2 years that Jimmy had. The Seahawks, as good as they've been, they hate every offensive coordinator. And so I've actually been thinking about this for a couple weeks. And then I saw a tweet last night from somebody who covers the Seahawks who suggested that Shane Waldron, Like, could Shane Waldron be one and done? Now, if Pete's gone and Russ is gone, then maybe he definitely could be one and done. But Russell Wilson not only doesn't get offensive coaches promoted, he gets them fired. And that makes him different than almost every other great quarterback in the NFL in the last 30 years. I mean, if you are an offensive coach, coordinator, QB coach for a future Hall of Fame quarterback, you are going to get somebody on your staff is going to get a job out of that. Listen to this list and feel free to jump in if you think I'm missing anybody. But let's go through some of the greatest quarterbacks of the last 25, 30 years in the NFL.
Hackenberg.
They all get Bill O'Brien a job. They all get guys jobs. Brady, Bill O'Brien, actually. So we can start with him. Josh McDaniels, Charlie Weiss, Byron Leftwich is probably going to become a head coach because of Brady. Joe Montana, Shanahan at Holmgren and Gruden. Peyton Manning, Bruce Arians, Mike McCoy became a head coach because of Peyton. Adam Gase became a head coach because of Peyton. Drew Brees. When Drew was leaving San Diego, Cam Cameron was his OC. Cam just had a great year with Rivers. But Doug Marrone was his offensive coordinator. John Elway. Mike Shanahan got the head coaching job. Chan Gailey. Jim Fossil. Gary Kubiak. Aaron Rodgers. Joe Philbin. Ben McAdoo was his quarterback coach before he went to New York to become the offensive coordinator. And Nathaniel Hackett, who's the OC there now, is probably going to get a job. Favre.
I
Harry
actually think,
Ritchie.
and I told you this before the podcast, I think you got to throw McCarthy in there as well. Even though Rodgers got McCarthy fired, he would not have got rehired if he didn't have the resume he had under Rodgers.
You know, I didn't have him on. I think you're right about that. I think the fact that he coached Rodgers, even though he got fired, is what gets him the Cowboy job.
It's
So
not
you're
like
right.
he had this resume of like Andy Reid working with all these quarterbacks was when he was with the Eagles, right? McCarthy's whole resume was Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
I mean,
Andy Reid, that was the other guy on Favre. Aikman, Norv Turner, Steve Young, Shanahan, Greg Knapp, Marty Mornhinweg. Went to Detroit after that.
Yeah.
Mark Trestman, Roethlisberger, Ken Wisenhunt was his OC. Kurt Warner, Mike Martz became the head coach. Todd Haley got a head coaching job. Rivers, I mentioned Cam Cameron. Rod Chudzinski went from the tight end coach in San Diego to the OC in Cleveland. Ken Wisenhunt was back after he was the head coach in Arizona, was 1 year OC for Rivers, got the Tennessee head job. McAdoo again, Eli Manning. McAdoo was his OC after he got sent to Eli from Rodgers and became the head coach. Cam Newton. Rob Chudzinski got the Browns job after he was Cam's OC. Donovan McNabb got Pat Shurmur and Brad Childress jobs. Warren Moon got Brian Billick and Mike Tice jobs. Now, maybe I'm missing like one of the best, that's not a complete list of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, but that's, the last 25, 30 years. It's like 25 years plus Elway, Montana, the only guy,
Drew Brees, Dan Campbell.
Dan Campbell, Ted Marchibroda, Jim Kelly got him a job. The only guy that I couldn't, and I'll admit, I don't know enough about the dynamic of the Dolphins offense. Nobody got a job from Marino. But like, John, listen to that list and tell me, how is it that Darrell Bevell fired, Schottenheimer out, Shane Waldron now's not good enough? How come? Now, maybe it's the organization. That's not just about Russ, but I never would, if you told me Russell Wilson, if you just read me his career, I'd go, well, how many people got, at least one OC became a head coach?
But I'd also say, think of all the guys like under Pete never had a problem getting guys jobs at USC, offensive guys, right? All those guys.
That's
Think
right.
about all the guys under Pete on defense over the years. He produced like 3 head coaches. Saleh doesn't totally count, but he started with Pete. Obviously, Gus and Dan Quinn. So it's not like Seattle wasn't shooting guys out. Hell, their GM got a job. Why the guys Russ is really the closest with? It is great angle by you because it is nuts. It is.
So what
nuts.
is it? I don't have
a little bit. I got one. He's a little bit of an NBA player. Like there is a drama that clearly, from a football standpoint, you can say whatever you want about Rodgers being a little weird. I do think he's kind of a football nerd. Like when he's footballing out with his football guys, I think he's a little more genuine football-wise than I think You described the Russ party. He threw a party where he invited everyone there. He had a fucking security guard around him. Everyone at the party was invited from him. Like, we can say what we want about Rodgers and his family and some stuff, even though I bet if the details came out, more people would probably lean with Rodgers and just go on The Bachelor. Like, if my parents ever did that to me, I don't know if I'd disown them, but I would not have been happy.
Wow.
So I think Rodgers like gets along with his football people much better than Russ. Look at Rodgers' relationship with his wide receivers. Why are all Russell's relationships with the players always weird? Like, we're all these famous players. No one's ever just kind of pounding the table for him. Hell, Tyler Lockett, I watch him every game. I'm like, God damn, this guy's good.
Yeah.
I never feel like he's just like, Russell, my guy. Devontae Adams is like, if he's not here, I'm out. Right? Randall Cobb is like, come get me. Come get me, Aaron. Aaron Jones, like, I love being here. I was reading some Albert Breer quotes about A.J. Dillon. He's like, this offense, man, playing with Aaron, it's like they love it.
Yeah.
And I've been saying for a while, I think Aaron Rodgers, because I do think they're kind of put in this duo together. Like, they're two great players, both won a Super Bowl, both going to the Hall of Fame. Rodgers is better than Russell, but, like, kind of weird. Peyton and Tom are, like, beloved. Same with Breeze. I do not put Aaron with Russell. I think Russell, and it's weird because, like, for people Niner people that have watched Russell at minimum, right, 2 times a year for the last 9 years, it's hard. And anyone that's gone to see him live to be like, that's one of the best players I've ever seen, any sport. That was remarkable. He is a remarkable player before this season. Remarkable. I've seen him live probably 4 or 5 times. I don't even know if I've ever seen him lose against the Niners, thinking back. I haven't. He's won every game I've ever attended. I went to the Monday night game, the Super Bowl year, and he fucking beat him in overtime because Jimmy threw a terrible pick. Yeah, and they didn't have a kicker. But he's a great player. But clearly there is just other stuff that comes along with being a quarterback, and I think it's twofold. You are you're basically an assistant coach / you got to be like the leader of all your guys. And I do think we have to question that a little bit with him. And now things are going off the rails. It doesn't feel like he's Mr., going to help build him out. Now, part of it, I do think he's a shell of himself right now. Like, throwing the ball, he's throwing some balls that just, like, his accuracy with the finger. Like, guy, you can't not sleep 19 hours a day and work the finger. Maybe his finger's just fucked.
Maybe something else is wrong with him.
Like what?
I don't know.
I've never seen
something else. I mean, another physical ailment is what I'm saying.
I mean, it feels like I've watched 100 Russell Wilson games. I have never, ever seen him take the sack that he took when he rolls out. He just, like, stood there. It's like he just stopped, and then the guy just shoved him. It was bizarre. That is a sack that, like,
he didn't see
takes. That was weird.
John, his agent gave a list of teams they could trade him to in the offseason.
But you say he checked out, and I want to say that too, and then he leaves him on the game-tying touchdown drive.
I know. Well, he's still out there playing. I don't know. But it's a mess right now. So, okay, by the way, a little feedback from people watching this right now. Is Middlekauff breaking up again? Or is that just, maybe it's me?
Looks fine on my thing.
Really? You're choppy and actually gotten worse than it was the first time to me. But let me pull up the stream. That's the only way to tell. Or ask people.
Yeah, because it's showing again.
How do I look and how's John? Does John look a little choppy?
You look crisp.
Let a few people
I'm fuzzy.
Comment. John's fuzzy. He's a robot. Did you restart the computer or just
I restarted, not shut down.
Maybe do a full. Oh, but you restarted the computer or just the browser?
I just did restart, but sometimes shutdown is a different level.
Yeah, maybe it needs like the internet restart, which is like a 4-minute project, but that's okay. We can survive. I can do some ads.
Okay, yeah. I'm just gonna shut down.
Shut down and maybe check the Wi-Fi speed while you're there.
Okay, I'm shutting down. You gonna do the ads? I'll be back.
Yeah, I'll do the ads. That's good. That's perfect.
Okay, see ya.
J Love says John's on 3G. Sounds fine. He sounds fine, so nobody cares. I know, but you know what, Jan? Like, part of the thing is we use some of these videos that we do, or we pull out part of the podcast and repurpose the videos, whether it be on YouTube or other little segments that we put on social. So I want the video to look good too. Sometimes a solid internet connection, even though it's going well, just gets this gets thrown off a little bit. Should have had Tito's in hand for the live. Definitely should have had Tito's in hand for the live. It's a good call. But I appreciate your feedback. I mean, the other part is I think sometimes when that happens, the audio gets a little weird. And, it's the audio that we use for the podcast is this audio. So I wanted to, the listener experience. It's amazing to me that anybody starts a podcast without like really dialing in the audio. How many people do it from like, talking into just like this, not talking into a microphone or like using AirPods. I don't know. Seems a little weak, but anyway, while John is gone, let's see if I can multitask here. Let's see if I can survive. Let's tell you about Overland. Overland.com/ham. Don't wait another day to slip into something more comfortable. Get the best, highest quality sheepskin slippers on the market. Overland is a family-owned company, a heritage brand. They've put comfort and quality first for nearly 50 years. Middlekauff is wearing his slippers. He'd pull them up right now if he had them. Mine are over there. I'm not going to run over and get them by the door, but they're fantastic. And they've got a lot of stuff. They got outerwear. They got accessories, home decor. Overland uses expert craftsmanship to pair the highest quality merino sheepskin, which is naturally moisture wicking, temperature regulating, antimicrobial with supportive memory foam, midsoles to make slippers that feel better for longer. Everybody, especially this time of year, your tootsies will get a little chilly. Everybody needs slippers. They're the perfect no-brainer gift. We're in the middle of Hanukkah right now. You got a month coming up, 3 weeks, 3.5 for Christmas, whatever holidays, birthdays, New Year's, whatever. Tell somebody you love them with some slippers. Tell your feet you love them with some slippers. Overland offers 100% satisfaction guarantee. Their commitment to customer service is exceptional. So don't wait another day. Go to overland.com/ham to get the best, highest quality sheepskin slippers on the market at overland.com/ham. You'll get free shipping and returns. Go today because of, you never know. Things take time these days. So jump on it fast. Overland.com/ham. /ham, baby. Speaking of /ham, how about this? We got a new addition to the podcast today. Go to Drink Trade. That's drinktrade.com/ham. Use the promo code ham to get $20 off your first 3 bags of some of the best coffee that you can find at drinktrade.com/ham and code ham.
Yep, guy, let me hop in here. Trade's goal is to make every cup of coffee your best ever. Trade will match you to coffees you'll love from 400 plus craft coffees, and they'll send you freshly roasted bag as often as you like. You can give feedback as you sip. As preferences evolve, your coffee matches will too. You can feel good about each cup since Trade partners with 55 plus small U.S.-based roasters who are committed to ethical and sustainable sourcing. How do you beat that?
Trade. Drinktrade.com/ham. They guarantee you'll love the first match. On the off chance that you don't, they'll replace it with a different bag. For free. I drink coffee every day, 2 cups a day. So I'm all about trade. Drinktrade.com/ham. $20 off your first 3 bags at checkout when you use the code ham. So it's a double. This is a double. You got to go .com/ham, drinktrade.com/ham, and then you use code ham this holiday season. Give the coffee lover in your life the gift of better coffee too with their own personalized gift subscription from Trade. Enjoy. By the way, Overland plus Trade, I mean, that's a bang of telling somebody you love them.
Dude, send some gifts. Hanukkah, Christmas, get on it, people.
The number 2 quarterback in the nation just committed to USC.
He was committed to Oklahoma?
Yeah. SoCal.
Yeah, Riley's problem is not going to be quarterbacks. Like he went back-to-back number 1 overall picks. He turned Jalen Hurts into a player. He benched Spencer Rattler, who was the number 1 quarterback, for Caleb, who was the number 1 quarterback.
Well, I saw Spencer Rattler's going to ASU is the one of the reports.
But isn't their quarterback going to come back?
Because they don't know if he's staying or not. And they couldn't wait, is what this guy who covers ASU, Jordan Simone, said.
Where would he go?
Well, like, does he want to go pro? But seems
Jaden's
a little
pro.
crazy.
Is that his first name?
Well,
Jaden?
Jaden.
Pro to
say
me.
DeBoer?
I mean, I've watched
Jaden
him.
Daniels.
I mean,
I know.
transfer
I know.
portal, maybe, but pro.
All right. Orient, you want to talk about Deebo here or the Niners game? You guys are getting a lot of behind the scenes Haberman and Middlekauff today, figuring things out on the fly.
Yeah, I mean, you go with whatever way you want, and I'll follow.
Well, I mean, we were just talking about. It's hard to talk about the Seattle game without talking about Deebo and Fred.
Yeah,
so let's just talk about them first.
I agree.
Deebo Samuel out, Fred Warner out. Here's some perspective on Deebo, John. I don't know if you saw this tweet from the NFL on ESPN. Deebo Samuel's the first receiver in NFL history to have 1,000 receiving yards, 5 receiving touchdowns, and 5 rushing touchdowns in the same season.
That's remarkable.
And there's a lot of season left.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Kyle say that he's seen Deebo now long enough and been around him long enough to know when he stops, something's wrong. And he mentioned last year at Washington, or I guess 2 years ago against the football team, maybe it was last year, that it happened. And there was another time last year where he pulled up with his hamstring. And like Deebo is a good judge of his own body. And Kyle thought that him stopping might have saved him. And you freaked out more than me. When he got destroyed, I just thought he had just tried to cut, and not that his body gave way, it just didn't really cut, and he just got stopped. And I had thought he got a concussion. I thought he had rattled his face because the guy then crushes him. But clearly, Kyle knows him a lot better than me because something happened. To me, it's not ideal. And same thing with Fred, because both those two guys are players who are very, very dependent on explosion. And last time I checked, a hamstring for Fred, who is a cover run-around linebacker, and Deebo, who, I don't know, like you said, is shattering records, that's a little scary. Like, it'd be one thing, like Elijah Mitchell shatters his finger, which I'm sure hurt like a mother. Didn't notice it at all, right? It's like, whatever, it's a finger, and he can just shoot that bad boy up, play through it, and it doesn't even have... These two injuries, I think both, and I understand Deebo's is bigger because he has been, Fred's had for his standards a down season. But if Deebo's the second best player on the team beside Trent, Fred's still a top 5 or 6 player in this team. They're lucky that Seattle is leaking oil would be an understatement. They're on the side of the road with multiple shattered tires and rims and doors missing and a window's now off, right? Because if this was normal Seattle, you'd be like, oh, they'd be fucked.
Specifically, if it was normal Russ, like elusive Russ, like who would be?
So you have to score with them and you got to chase them, right?
Yeah, who would you have number 1 chasing them?
Yeah,
once
51's been playing well.
He has been. Yeah, he has been really well.
I saw a great.
Has so much experience in this rivalry, specifically against this quarterback.
Yeah, and I think the way Deebo's playing right now, like every Niner person's thinking this, watching Seattle, be like, and we're on a text thread with multiple people. No one thinks that Seattle's going to have 10 points going in the fourth quarter against 49ers.
Everybody's scared.
Yeah. So there is, Steve Kerr appropriate fear. There ain't a soul that watches the 49ers that thinks this bad boy is going to be a cakewalk, right? And it's not. But they've been scoring with Deebo. He's been like getting multiple touchdowns a game. So where do they get the points? That where they do? They have to throw it more. That means Jimmy. That means scary. That means he throws picks. Now, luckily, do you see what's his name just tied his career high last night for 2 picks in a season? Jamal Adams. Or no, he just eclipsed his career high. I guess his career high was 1, and that last night was a second pick. And
Jamal Adams, 2 weeks in a row, has basically gone Olay on the goal line. Just let a guy run by him.
You think it's the worst trade in NFL history?
I mean, I know it's one of the worst trades in NFL history. I'd have to think about it a little more if it's the worst trade in NFL history, but it's one of the worst trades in NFL history. Yeah.
But a buddy texted me and asked me that today. Like Goff and Wentz, those guys were disastrous contracts, but both of them were worth it for those teams, right? Yeah. The Rams got to a Super Bowl and Wentz indirectly won them a Super Bowl. Kind of.
I mean, Wentz was... He got hurt, but
they traded both of them traded multiple ones to get those guys and then paid them an astronomical amount of money.
Wentz looked like an MVP until he got hurt one year. I mean, it's like, to me, this is not even like, this is non-productive, and it's not even smart. Like, I don't even get the logic. I understand going all in. If you think that's the quarterback, go all in. If you're wrong, you're wrong, but I get it. This thing is bananas.
Well, he's not like, let's say the 49ers traded Deebo Samuel this offseason for 2 1s and a 2. Be like, holy shit, right? But you'd be like, well, you're getting one of the best players in the NFL. Now, short sample size, he's been injured. The thing with Jamal Adams is like, he was just a tackling linebacker that played safety. It's like, well, he can't really cover. Like, what is he even, right? Like, what is it even? At least Jalen can lock down and play, corner. But the problem is for Jalen is that they don't even use him as like a, they didn't isolate him. Devontae had 8 catches for like 100+ yards against them. It's like, why don't you just chase him around? That's where it makes me nervous this week with Deebo not being there for scoring points. Because I do think he'll have to score points in this game. I'm just going to assume that until I see different.
I agree, but I think what's more important is Deebo Samuel being healthy in 2 weeks. Because Cincinnati's a better football team than Seattle. Cincinnati is 6th in the NFL in points per game right now. The Bengals average 28 points per game. I mean, offensively, they're scoring with Arizona and Indianapolis. Seattle's averaging 19. Seattle's scoring with Miami and the Giants and the Panthers. Okay. And the Niners are closer to Cincinnati than they are to Seattle offensively. Right. The Niners are 11th, tied with Minnesota and Kansas City. So I guess maybe they're 9th, whatever. But they're all 3 of those teams are 25.5 points a game. Deebo Samuel is, again, appropriate fear for Seattle. But all the evidence we have in front of our eyes right now tells us that Cincinnati is the game that you're going to have to score more points than Seattle.
You need him back in a week. You see that game got moved up too.
It got moved. Well, it got moved back, right? From a 1 o'clock to a 4 o'clock. It was a 10 a.m. body clock game. Now it's a 1:25. It's one of one of our like 1:25 East Coast games, but the 1:25 Pacific window. So it's an afternoon game now on the West Coast.
Yeah, so an upgrade, right?
I think that's better for the Niners, right? Yeah,
I just mean it's always they put better games in that afternoon slot, is what I'm saying.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. That, to me, the question with Deebo is this a 2-week injury or is it a 1-week injury?
I just see under no circumstances how you can. They got lucky, not lucky because they earned it, but winning that game allows you a little breathing room. Like, under no circumstances could you rush him back this game. I think next week you cannot have a Dre Greenlaw situation. Now, he had a major injury, had surgery, but I'm saying, like, you can't bring him back and then have him mid-game yank up on that and be like, oh, my God. Right? Because that happens to hamstrings a lot. And I'd say same with Fred. You cannot, and that's the thing, though, with the tissue injuries. You never know until, because they practice, they're fine, they react, and then they get in the game. This is clearly a different speed.
Yeah, I know that part. I wish it was just like the Elijah Mitchell, a broken finger or something. Not that you wish it was anything, but I'm going to be on pins and needles the rest of the year, I think, when it comes to Deebo, even when he comes back.
Yeah.
That's the scary thing.
As
he's turned into one of the most valuable players in the NFL.
Sucks. Could have been worse.
Yeah. I mean, is the days of using him the way they've used him this year, is that over?
But guys, it's not use. He's only touching the ball so many times. Like, I know. They could throw him. It's not, to me, it has nothing to, you just get hurt. Like, guys get hurt in the NFL. He's really not being used that often. It feels like he's being used more than he is. I
know. His mere existence, though, is such a big deal. His presence.
Well, we can't talk about paying him huge money if you got to get worried about using him. Like, they use the shit out of Devontae Adams. They use the shit out of Tyreek Hill. Like, my best players that I'm going to pay a premium, I got to use the shit out of. They use the shit out of Kittle.
Right.
You know? So it's like, if I'm going to pay, Trent Williams, they run it to the left basically 90% of the time. Like, I just have to be able to, Nick Bosa, I ride him like Secretariat. It's part of the scary part with Deebo. It's the elephant in the room about he clearly, his character, his vibe, his aura, like his smile, like he hangs with Trent, like he's everything you want. He has one question mark right now, and it's can he have like 3 straight seasons of 17 games? And you would say, well, no.
Can we start with 1?
Yeah, it hasn't happened yet. And he goes back to college. Like, he was just one of those guys, clearly, who's a 36th pick in the draft, I think. If he has a fully healthy college career, he's probably picked 20, right?
Well, I had somebody tell me, I'm glad you just reminded me of this. Somebody told me yesterday that one of the Raven scouts really wanted to draft Deebo.
Well, he feels like a Raven, doesn't he?
It feels like, and it made total sense. And the
Can you
response
imagine
was,
how good he would be with Lamar in the backfield? Holy shit.
I'm not drafting a running back that high, was the answer they got.
That's what Ozzie told the scout.
I don't know if it was Ozzie, but somebody was like, we're not taking a running back that high. It's like, well, they were kind of right. Like, they knew how to use him, it turned out, right? Baltimore had the right idea.
Can you imagine those two running the zone read, Deebo, and then like doing little crazy passes with Roman? That'd be sweet. I mean, Kyle's probably dreaming about that with Trey, right? Doing like a diamond formation with Elijah Mitchell and Deebo Samuel and Trey Lance, and then and have Kittle and Trent and be like, "Hey guys, we're coming left. Get fucking ready." Trent just doesn't say anything, and then he throws 3 guys 17 feet. Like, Trent just does not talk and kicks everyone's ass.
I know.
Every day or like every week on like Tuesday, a couple just like football nerds I follow on, Twitter, it'll always come up. 71 on the 49ers is the most underappreciated guy in league history. People do not understand. Those are like 7 highlights, and just bodies are flying, like just tumbleweeds. It's like, oh yeah, that guy's an NFL defensive tackle, and he just got tossed 7 feet.
I know. It's really become O-line. The O-line community has embraced it to the point that they've made it mainstream.
Yeah.
All right. So that said, Deebo aside, watching Seattle, do you have appropriate fear for the Seattle Seahawks from a Niners perspective this week? Or
Well,
are they toast?
Yeah, I mean, I do think
Or both possible.
I expect it to be a closer game. I mean, last night technically was a closer game, partly because Washington couldn't score. But if you're going to make the playoffs, when you get a team, think about like the jungle. And I watch a lot of jungle YouTubes, and I follow a lot of jungle like Instagram accounts. When there is like a limping gazelle, when there is an injured animal around the water, the predators lick their lips and they go eat dinner. And listen, Minnesota was hard, right? They had a bunch of good players. It's just going to be the Rams a couple weeks ago was going to be hard. This is, you have, a gazelle, and really one of the faster gazelles for the last, decade. If the Seattle's a gazelle, they are limping right now. And at any moment they could hit the Jets and get a little bit of the power, but you have to, attack their neck and kill them and eat them. You cannot lose this game. It would be hard, and I understand you're missing Deebo Samuel, and I understand you're missing Fred Warner, but you have been on the opposite side of this several times with Seattle. And you've played them tight. Remember, they beat them the year to get Bosa, and I was furious. I'm like, I can't believe it. And it ended up working out because the football gods maybe rewarded them. But you just have to find a way to win this game. Luckily, this is not college football. There's no point differential. There's no scoreboard. There's only 4 teams in the playoffs. You could win this game 9-7, and just get out of there, come home, right? But you have to win this game. Like I cannot you just can't lose this game to a 3-8 Seattle team. And I understand it's on the road, and I do think the 12s are going to be a little rattled. Like, it's not, the fervor is just not going to be there. It's human nature. But you got to fucking win this game, guy. Now, Cincinnati, I would not say the same thing. Like, if you go into that week and they win, I think the Bengals, I don't know who they play this week, but because the Steelers play the Ravens. Regardless of what their record is, that's a tough game. On the road, they're playing well. Joe Mixon's a stud. Burrow's a stud. Jamar Chase, they're just good. Like, they've beat enough teams now. We've seen them kick the Ravens' ass. We've seen them kick the Steelers' ass. Seen them kick the Raiders' ass. Like, I'm not looking at the Bengals, especially playing them on the road in a pretty big game. Who knows? Maybe
Chargers.
Nance and Romo call that. So let's assume the Bengals win this week against the Chargers. That is fucking. If you're 7-5, that's a hard game. You could easily lose it. Let's assume the Niners win and the Bengals win. Are the Bengals favored in that game? Is that a -3 Bengals?
Yes.
I do not look at the Bengal game like Seattle. They're limping. They're bleeding. They're the gazelle. You have to kill them. You just have to. Even Russell's chubby right now. He's got a weird finger. Pete, the whole thing. Jamal Adams celebrates when they're down 10. Jamal's got like this way less accomplished Cam thing going. Like Jamal, I do appreciate your physicality as a lover of physicality in football, and I like players like you. But when your team is 3-7 and you're playing on Monday Night Football and you're kind of getting your ass kicked, and it's the third quarter and you're celebrating like just an open field tackle, it's like at least Cam had like won an MVP and been to Pro Bowls. Like you've kind of been a lifetime loser, you know. I'm not anti-Jamal, but I'm also not really feeling him.
They're not feeling him, I'll tell you that. Because I keep seeing the Seattle people in my Twitter feed with these like weak effort tackle plays on the goal line 2 weeks in a row.
I think that Kyle is going to isolate him and go after him till like if Deebo was around, they would try to get Deebo on him. Who's he covering?
It's not going to be ideal. Sherfield.
You're saying because Ayuk's little and he could kill him?
Yeah, just fat. No, I'm saying not ideal for Jamal just because of speed. Yeah. Kittle. I mean, can you run with Kittle?
No.
So I mean, like I don't know that there's.
Now, if you're Russell, my game plan would be if I was Shane Waldron, as two guys that if they came to Ham and said, "How do we attack the Niners?" I'd be like, "Well, pretty easy. You know that little guy number 16 and that other enormous guy. I don't even know what number. Oh, he's 14. I would take 16 and I would take 14. And I would have them run straight at full speed. And I would tell Russ, take 3 or 5 steps, depending on whatever you're comfortable, and just throw it deep. Every fucking play. Because I'll promise you these guys cannot cover you. And you will get PIs when they are covered. If they don't take 10 go route shots, I think they are doing themselves a disservice. The Niners better pray that they don't do that. And their route to lock it is the deep crosser. Like that's his go-to. Mm-hmm. I would say, hey,
DK just running free 20 yards down the field over the middle.
I would say, yeah, don't even waste that angle. Just go straight. Just go. How is Josh Norman covering either one of those guys? He's not.
By holding?
Listen, I get like it's a tougher job for the beat guys. They're around those guys a lot. And not the players care, but the administration and the coaching staff. And so Mayoko and these guys making a conscious effort to be like, Josh Norman leads the league in forced fumbles. Like, yeah, guys, we understand he can punch the ball out. He can't cover anybody. He's not playing linebacker.
I do have to give him credit, though. That's not nothing.
Well, he's a great puncher of the ball.
They've created turnovers, and that's
his skill.
They've needed him.
But he creates punches of the ball when you run it.
Yeah, or after somebody has caught it. I guess even then, that's not normally where they come in, huh? Unless it's like a screenplay or something. Yeah,
because he's coming down on you. So it's you. To me, most of them runs or passes to people that he had nothing to do with. But I get it's a real stat, but it's also...
Well, look, I talked about him like he was not bringing anything to the table after that penalty he got against Arizona. He has been bringing something to the table. We got to admit that.
He's got a good punch.
I think the Niners aren't going to end the Seattle Seahawks season, right? They're not ending the dynasty if they beat them this week.
Their season kind of ended last night.
I agree. And the dynasty, this thing has been cooking for a while. Again, Russ's agent put out teams publicly with his name on it that he would go to. So this thing's been on its way.
Is it a dynasty when you only win one championship?
Whatever. Probably not.
It was an incredible run.
But I do think the one thing Seahawks fans have seen the Seahawks struggle on the road against that game they played on Monday Night Football. The Seahawks have played multiple times in the last 10 years.
God, they were playing that in their Super Bowl years.
Yeah, they play. What they don't do is look like shit against the Niners. Like if the Niners kick their ass, again, they're 3-8 or 3-9?
3-8.
3-8. That's jarring in and of itself. But if somehow the Niners work them the way that they've worked like the Rams before, that I think is going to feel like a whole other thing to everybody.
If they lose by multiple touchdowns.
Yeah, if it's like jarring. Now, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying that's going to feel different than any of these other games. Seattle beat them the last time they played. This year.
The Niners were kicking their ass in that game, remember?
Yeah.
But the scoreboard didn't reflect it, and then Cannon muffs a kickoff and then fumbles, and then it just snowballed quick. And I think, did Trey come in the second half of that game? Yeah. And then he threw a pick.
Jimmy got hurt.
Seattle's 1-4 at home. Like, one thing that's just Now, a couple of those games Geno played. Definitely one of them Geno played because they played on a Sunday night game. But they're just a shell. I mean, they've just been terrible all season. I mean, they lost a game. To me, the game they never lost that they lost this season, that even when I thought they were going to be good, that I knew something was off, was the Tennessee game. Because I remember watching it on my couch, red zone. They're up like 31-14. It's like, oh, Seattle's just kicking their ass. Then all of a sudden they're in overtime, and then they lose the game. That, to me, when they lost the Tennessee Titan game 33-30, that was one of the crazier things I've ever seen. Because that's when I was like, something is off here. Something is off. And then even the Niner game, they were off. They were not good. The Niners were outgaining them like 200-10, and somehow the score was 7-7. But it was just, they showed signs before he hurt his finger that they were fucked. And the Niners weren't good enough at the time to take advantage of it. It's way worse now. You're 3-7 or 3-8. The Niners caught a break. They play Monday Night Football across the country. So then it's weird because Russell, shaving points, quitting on him, like he does just look weird.
To be clear, you said shaving points like it came from somewhere. That was just, I texted you Monday night, like, is Russ shaving points? Because I'm just trying to figure out what the hell's going on, just so people don't think that was like a report from somewhere.
No, it was a Haberman thought. And I was like, yeah, I kind of agree. But then I was sort of like, is he shaving points, to keep a point spread down and try to get the under? Or is
and then they didn't get the 2 point, and they were 2 point. They got the push at the end, John.
Yeah, so it's hard to gauge them. It's one of the bigger. Actually, it is the biggest train wreck story in the NFL, huh? Just because they've been a consistent playoff team for a decade, and then his, like you said, it goes back to the summer when he did the trade request. It wasn't a trade request, but it was.
Put his name on it. Schefter.
Pete just got a 5-year extension last year, so we're like, are they going to pay him $55 million to go away?
I don't see Pete going out with Russ. The more I think about it, if Russ is out, fine. But is Pete going out like this?
Where's he going to go, though?
No, I'm saying he's staying in Seattle. Are we sure Pete's getting fired?
No, I'm not.
Who's more likely to be back next year in your mind in Seattle, Pete or Russ?
They're a little bit of just a hard thing to put a finger on. I don't really have a great feel. I just know it's really, really weird, and it's getting weirder by the game. It feels a lot like college. Sometimes it happens like, oh, this Ed O thing is just coming to an end. It hits you fast. Unlike the Ed O or college thing, sometimes there's like fire Clay Helton. Like Pete has so much equity, it's not going to happen like that. And with players, they have to get traded. They can't just go to transfer portal. But it feels like it's like at the end of the road, but they have to play out the string here in December. And I think we have... Here's my prediction. I think we have a bombshell Sunday morning Schefter / rap sheet report in the next month, or Glazer, of just like, whoa. Like Russell's already let it be known that it's him or Pete, and even then it's no guarantee that he doesn't want out. Or Pete is already cool with like, you can buy me out as long as I get another, I don't know. I could just see... We have a Sunday morning report on the Seattle situation that's going to be an eye-opener coming. And I would guess it happens before Christmas. Like, I don't see that happening like week 17. Like, that feels like week 14. That feels like...
Especially now that it's this bad.
You could argue that feels like they're 2 losses away from being 3-10 and being like, they don't have their pick.
I know.
They don't have their pick.
And there's not really a discussion about them. It's weird. I mean, there is, but there's not. It's bizarre. You know what I mean? Like, about like, what's up with them?
Do you know
everyone's trying to figure it out, but there's no...
I always push back on like, even if you're going to trade Jamal Adams, if you put him in the Khalil and Jalen, you only get picks back in the 20s for those guys. Because like Jalen, even the year they missed the playoffs, they went 9-7. Both Khalil Mack picks, even though the Bears weren't that good, they were never higher than like 18. It's like, you drafted Jamal Adams 6. How are you ever going to get that pick back? And Joe Douglas is going to be like, we got pick 4.
It's an upgrade.
That is rare, wouldn't you say? Because the guy that's drafting pick 4, or a team that ever thinks they're going to be drafting that high, is never usually cool making that trade.
Well, and when you make the trade, from their perspective, when you trade him away, you're the Seahawks are like, yeah, we hate pick 28 anyway. That's what we're going to have, so who cares?
What happened to the Dolphins last year, right? When they traded Laramie Tunsil. Or I guess, no, it happened to the Texans. They traded for Laramie Tunsil, and then they sucked.
Right.
And then the Dolphins are like, whoa. And they didn't even draft Laramie Tunsil as high as they had to get to because it was the 5th pick. But they actually got Laramie Tunsil at like 11 or 12 because of the mask. That's one of the greater transactions. This might top that transaction. The difference is most people go like, well, yeah, Laramie Tunsil ain't Trent Williams, but he's a good left tackle. Feels like Jamal Adams would he even start on most teams?
Feels like he's part of the problem, not the solution for them.
His celebrations after tackles when he's getting his ass kicked is just like, bro.
Well, he's missing tackles. That's why I keep if that's your thing, at least do that thing. Like put fear in the running back and the quarterback. Doesn't feel like anyone's afraid of him anymore.
He's an unreal second tackler where he gets to destroy both guys. The guy tackling to begin with and the offensive player, and then 33 comes in, huge collision, and then he pounds his chest or does a flex move. That feels very Jamal Adams.
It's like they were holding him up for you.
Yeah. I remember Cam Chancellor used to just dominate, right? By himself.
All their guys did, right?
Yeah.
All their guys did. John, before we go any further, let's tell people about the Daily Tip presented by BetMGM. If you're into sports betting, you know how quickly the lines can change. And so when you got a lot riding on those odds, it pays to stay ahead of the curve. You know, we're all about it. We start looking at these lines early in the week. When you place your bets, before you do, listen to the Daily Tip presented by BetMGM for the best betting analysis and information.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are listening to two people that knows what it takes to create a good show. Chemistry, energy, to go with good takes. And this show has it. So check out the Daily Tip presented by BetMGM with featured guests and bookmakers, Odyssey insiders, and BetMGM experts. You always got a fresh take on the action, guy.
Yeah, Michael Jenkins, Chelsea Messenger, all over it. So they'll break down the big takeaways. They'll make sure what you need, that you know what you need to know to be smarter. And as much fun as it is to bet on the game, which is fun, it stops being fun if you're not winning. Trust us. We just had an 11-game lock win streak. So you got to get the inside scoop, and you want to get it with the Daily Tip presented by BetMGM.
We just bet on two teams that aren't even playing in a real game. Ready to bet with an edge? Tune into the Daily Tip presented by BetMGM. Listen weekdays, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern on Odyssey, Spotify, or your favorite podcast application.
The Daily Tip presented by BetMGM. All right, this I know you're going to like. This is from a Jennifer Lee Chan article at NBCSports.com/Bay Area. And it's a Kyle Shanahan quote. Can you read it? Or do you want me to read it to you?
Yeah, read it.
This is what Kyle Shanahan said about Trey Lance. And the point of this article is Trey hasn't been playing, and Kyle says it's more a reflection of Kyle than it is about Trey. So here's the quote. What's been hard on me that I didn't realize is when you do bring in a different quarterback who gets a different set of plays, it's almost the first play that I've been seeing of a new defense. You see what fronts and coverages they're doing, but they do it completely. But they are doing it completely to plan as a threat of the runner at that position. I don't know what to anticipate with it. So then I've got to stay in it for a while to get a feel for it. And then you go back, and that feels kind of off for the last guy. So it kind of hurts my rhythm a little bit of understanding what a defense is getting. That's personally, as the year has gone on, what I've gotten a little more away from, because I like to get a feel for what the defense is doing. So he's saying he switches quarterbacks, the defense does something different, and now it takes him a play or a series to adjust to what the defense is doing, because the defense is adjusting to his new quarterback.
I think it goes back to the game against Arizona. And I was thinking about this when I was walking after you sent me that little excerpt a lot earlier today. And Kyle Shanahan, if you saw, I Instagrammed it and tweeted it out. I was just watching the press conference after the last game against Vikings, and there was a moment when he ran down the sideline, and on television it looked like he was going to call a timeout. And they asked him what he was doing because they ended up not calling a timeout, and he was saying, old school Kyle Shanahan swag, I was alerting the referee to let him know we were running a double move and the corner was gonna pass interference. PI was inevitable. It actually turned out that I don't think the corner bit. So it shows you just because you're cocky doesn't mean it always works. I think that's the play that Deebo turned into Darrelle Revis and made an incredible play. Because Jimmy, when I'm going to put that one on Jimmy, like, bro, the look didn't actually work out, bite the ball. But Kyle's the star of this team. When they are rolling, he is in control. He is the chess master. The Queen's Gambit, he's the chick, right? He's, Bobby Fischer. Like, he is really, I'm trying to think in the NFL now, like, LaFleur, like, Rodgers is kind of in control. McVay's kind of lost control of his offense. Andy has given a lot to Patrick, I think, in the way they've played. They've kind of met in the middle. And Patrick became such a star and so good that you can kind of see him. But Kyle truly, and he hasn't had that level of Mahomes yet. We'll see if Trey ever gets there. He's in full control. And I think with Trey Lance, he knows when he studies his opponent with his offense exactly what he's going to get. So like when he mentioned that, because he's seen this guy against a similar look, I'm sure, that this guy will bite and grab. He has it in his mind. He's like, when it comes to this offense, he truly is a genius. When I say this offense, I mean his Shanahan family run scheme to all the boot play action stuff. He knows it like the back of his head, and he knows what they're going to do. I think that Trey Lance experience, because I was walking today, I bet Kyle did not feel comfortable asking things that Trey, even if he said he felt comfortable, that Kyle didn't feel he actually felt comfortable doing. So he gave him a very rudimentary kind of running, that offense, right? Was a lot of just, felt very just, I don't even know the right word to use, but it was kind of basic. And with Jimmy, they just run all of Kyle's shit. And I don't think Kyle feels he's ready to do that. So for Trey to play, that he doesn't, and this gets back to, like, there's no developing going on in the season. Like, they're not working on developing anything with Trey, because that is not the way the NFL works. When the season starts, the coordinators, and that's what it turns out, for this team, Kyle is, like, he's the play caller, so he's coordinating against the opponent. I think a lot of times, like, when I worked in the NFL, or even in college, once you get in the season, your coordinators are so dead set on the game. Well, your head coach, like, can do, like, I remember at Fresno State, Pat Hill could do some extra shit with some of the younger guys because he has coordinators doing that. Kyle can't just do extra shit with the younger guys. He's calling the goddamn game. And then all week going over the plays in practice. Like, he can't just roam once certain parts of practice go. So he is admitting that he can't, for them to win right now, he can't fuck with Trey. And I've said this from the beginning, that he is not going to be in the development mode because coaches are like that. They do not think like that, especially coordinating coaches. It's why McVay is obsessed with getting Von Miller, with getting Matt Stafford. No fucking development. They're not in developing. They're not into that because they're trying to win. And it's a big off-season project. I'm cool with it as long as you're going to make the playoffs. And right now they're headed there. You're going to make the playoffs. I can live with you basically just doing nothing with them this year because this is your decision, and you clearly haven't just done anything with Trey. Now, in meetings and talking with him, I don't mean like they have no interaction, but just in terms of getting him ready to play in big-time games, like, they're not really doing it. Can we just admit that they've kind of just scrapped him?
Yeah. And this is why, right? Here's another example. Kyle was coach number 5,076,076 to try and make a 2-quarterback system work. No one's really pulled it off yet and won football games, right?
And I give him credit, that last preseason game, he like legitimately tried some kind of outside of the box stuff, right? For
maybe
the
some
NFL.
Taysom, maybe that one's kind of worked, but
I mean, Kyle was like running series, and then he'd go back.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
But I think in some ways the series thing, it's weird because
I think that's what he's talking about more than just like a play for Trey. Right?
Yeah. Well, I've heard it discussed from a quarterback's perspective before. I had a college coach tell me this year. Like, the problem with trying 2 quarterbacks in the same game is that so much of what happens in a game is a result of what happened earlier in a game.
Yeah.
And so if your quarterback gets the first 2 series, if John gets the first 2 series, and then Guy gets the next 2 series, well, when John comes back into the game, he hasn't seen what the defense has done on the last 2 series. So, yeah, we might be in the beginning of the third quarter now, but John hasn't seen anything the defense has adjusted to since the first quarter. And that it makes it really hard on your quarterbacks because everything they do is a result of taking in information, adjusting, taking in information. And now you kind of stunt both guys in the game because they don't get the full picture. I think part of what Kyle is saying, and this is where we talk about when his offense is hitting, there's just such a rhythm to it, is that not only does it take him out of rhythm, but what he does on drive 5 is a result of what the defense did on drive 4, which is a result of what Kyle did on drive 3, which is a result of what the defense did on drive 2, which is a result of what Kyle did on drive 1, right? It all kind of works in a rhythm. His offense really, when he's got it going, it really fits together really well.
Yeah.
Because
it's a puzzle that he's.
But it's about knowing what they're going to do and how to exploit it. Well, you throw Trey in, and again, it just goes to show how hard it is, even for a guy who, regardless of what you think of Kyle, whether his win-loss record is good enough, whatever, what can't be denied from an offensive play calling perspective, he's an elite coach.
But
and even for him, he's saying, I underestimated how hard this was going to be to do both things.
We have to acknowledge, and he's admitting it, it is and we've all known this, and, a lot of people were like, I don't know why, back when we played the game and we talked a lot about it, the good and the bad, it is a major, major offseason project to get, and ultimately, like, these reports that Jimmy's going to get, they're all their chips are on Trey. They have to figure it out, but it's going to be difficult. Like, they make the playoffs this year, their team might be better next year, but the quarterback situation is going to be, because they're going to have to do so many things, right? Orchestrate the offense around the kid, work on his mechanics, work on his understanding of football, and then live through games. So it's going to be a big undertaking. It really is, which is cool, but he ain't in it to lose. So, and that's why I think he wanted to wring Jimmy's neck, because he's like, I didn't work this hard to fucking dig us out of this hole, and you throw the ball. And Kyle, watching his press
Trey
conference,
can't save us.
And Trey can't save us. Yeah, I have no backup plan, Jimmy. The guy that I traded all these picks for, and this too, he ain't close to ready.
No.
And this is why, going back, not to toot our own horn, our initial reaction to everything we saw with Trey was, it was just such a raw, it wasn't a sustainable thing. And in fairness, he had no clue what was going on. And I was thinking about today when I was walking after you sent me that thing of, like, going back to Matt Ryan and the complexity of this, how intense this offense is. And then factoring in how intense the head coach is. Because you and I have talked about Lincoln Riley. I think a lot of people at USC, anytime you say younger offensive coach, like, oh, Sean McVay, fun-loving, gunning it. Cliff Kingsbury, good-looking, taking down tens, throwing it. Lincoln Riley is, I think, closer to Saban's personality than people realize. He is kind of an old-school, younger stiff. Now, because he's younger, he doesn't feel as stiff as maybe an older guy like a Brian Kelly or a Belichick or a Saban, but he is closer to their vein than he is to Sean McVay's personality. And the difference of Sean McVay and Kyle, like, Sean McVay's not really screaming at people. Like, it's pretty clear. You just watch him. Kyle fucking loses his shit. Kyle is wound tight. Like, there is a reason.
I'll tell you, watching McVay looked like he was pretty tight the other day watching some.
But he can't scream it at Matt, right?
Did he scream it off?
I mean, he could, but I'm just saying, like, Kyle will scream at probably anyone except Trent, right? I mean, you don't really need to scream at Bosa. But, like, there's not, like, anyone Kyle's intimidated by coaching him hard. And when it comes to his offense, we saw it with Ayuk. That is not, and you've been on this, like, you got to acknowledge it worked. That is not a tactic that I would say most coaches under 50 that are offensive coaches would use. Correct? On Ayuk?
No.
That was a very, very, like,
maybe if you were a freshman in college, maybe.
I'm talking in the pros.
Yeah, but I'm saying even in college, you don't really, because guys can just hop in the portal. You got to be careful.
That was an old school move by a 42-year-old that I thought was crazy. And listen, it's not my tactic, but again, I come from kind of open-minded LA, football liberals in Pat Hill and Andy Reid. That's not, they're either like you're suspended or you're playing. They don't do that. And it goes back to Kyle's dad, Mike. Like, he's just a hard ass, and Kyle's a hard ass. And I think this Trey thing, maybe I haven't even come to, like, that was an eye-opening comment even though we were all kind of thinking it, definitely you and I were back in that Arizona game, you agree it is going to be an undertaking this offseason, just with him and Trey. Like, it is a...
Some people didn't like when you called it a project, but it's clearly a project. Now, project doesn't mean, projects have due dates.
Lamar was a project. Josh Allen was a project.
Playing quarterback in the NFL for most guys it's a project.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing. Most players are somewhat of projects. Like, not everyone's like Justin Jefferson just hit the ground. I'm an All-Pro immediately, right? I mean, it's just some guy you need to keep improving and getting better. Like, everyone, adapts at quicker speeds. But the difference, though, and this goes back to, like, obviously quarterback is much more nuanced. There's just so much more going on than playing wide receiver or playing linebacker. But we're bringing up like Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, or Trent Williams, any player at any position, Khalil Mack. This kid just hasn't played. He just hasn't played very much. He's going to go 2 years basically with a half of football against Seattle, if Jimmy stays healthy, the start against Arizona, and the game against New Mexico Southern West East 2 years ago. Like, those are the two games he's had 2 starts in 24 months. That's pretty crazy.
It is. And was the 3rd pick.
And then he's going to come to a team potentially off, even if they lose in the first round, like, it's not like the Niners are going to be like, yeah, we're not going to try to make the playoffs this year because they're not going to have any picks. They're going to be like, fuck, we're all in.
Yep. I know.
Jimmy survive?
He might.
I don't think Kyle could deal with him.
Well, to me, the way he survives is if Kyle it's okay. No is the answer. Unless Kyle thinks, like, Trey is not, if he thinks they made a mistake. Otherwise, he's got to play. He's got to go to Trey.
Yeah.
He has to. Niners are favored by 3, Brady says. So there is a line on that game now, or has been. I just missed it.
You'd have to pay me to bet on that game. Could you take the Niners -3 at Seattle? I don't care if they're winless.
No, I would not feel good about that.
Do you think Seattle's crowd's going to be a little weird, or do you think they'll just be normal loud?
How could they not be a little weird?
Like, if you were a season ticket holder, would you?
Has it already been weird? I mean, you said it. They're under 500.
Yeah, but he got injured. He missed a couple games. He definitely missed one. I remember they played this. I think it was the Steelers on Sunday night at Seattle.
John, by the way, did you see this thing? I sent it to you the other day. It's been going around the internet. Matt Stafford is now 9-70 against teams with a winning record. I've been searching to find out. I mean, I'm not actually going to go through all the games and see if that's true or not. That seems insane. But, I did some digging and I did find this tweet from Dave Kluge. And his source on the tweet, over his career, Matt Stafford 9-70 against team with a winning record. Source, a Reddit thread called 12-inch poops. So, true or not, I don't know.
Where to me that doesn't add up is like his teams in Detroit. I just pulled up their records. So he gets there and they go 0-16. He shows up. They go 2 wins, 6 wins. He goes 10-6 in 2011. Then he goes 4-12.
Who'd they beat that year? I mean, he played the Packers and the Vikings, and even the Bears have been solid.
Okay, but starting in 17, he was not on like 3-win teams.
No,
so in 13, 7 wins, 14, 11 wins, 15, 7, 9-7, 9-7. He had a lot of like 11 and 9 win seasons. They won games.
That can't be right. Again, I'm not going to go do the math on it, but
I bet it's dramatically under 500, but it feels like it would be like 25-48 or something, right? They were underdogs in a lot of games.
Well, think about their division they were the worst team in the division, so yeah.
And you play multiple divisions every year, so you're playing winning teams. But you can't have that many 9. He had multiple double-digit win seasons and 2 9-7 seasons. Like that to me, you would get more than 9 wins, you would think, in the season to get to 11. You would think.
What was the stat I showed you, or maybe you sent it to me the other day? First quarterback with pick sixes in 3 straight games since Matt Schaub.
But didn't Schaub's streak go a little longer than that?
I think it did. I thought it went to like 4.
I remember he had like the streak going. They played the Niners on Sunday Night Football. It was one of those times Buck was, maybe it was, it was afternoon game. Buck was supposed to do a double dip, like he was going to do the World Series in that Niner game. Remember helicopter? Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt Schaub had 3 straight games, and then in that game, he opened the game with a pick 6 at Candlestick. That's when it ended. And then he ended up on the Raiders for $9 million, which was crazy, and then got beat out before week 1. Remember that?
Pea shooter. I think that was the first time I heard you use pea shooter.
I just remember going to practice and thinking, like, you can't start this guy.
Well,
I thought
also
his career
next
was
to
over,
Derek.
and then he played 7 more years.
I know. Are we opening the door for the Raiders again, John? Kind of have to.
Who they play this week?
They play somebody. Where'd this game go? I was looking for the line on it, and so now I'm scrolling. It's not there.
Raiders. Oh, they play Del Rio football team.
Oh yeah. I mean, how we feel about Taylor Heineke right now? Getting a lot of Taylor Heineke on every Washington football team game, and it's
a little too much. Like his idol's Favre. He kind of plays like Favre. Like, yeah, he's a good player. He's probably, he's going to be in the league for a while. I don't hate him.
But you tell me Ron Rivera, it's not like they're looking for their next quarterback ASAP, right?
Well, and listen, as someone who mutes the game a lot, for whatever reason, Manning Cast wasn't on. I had the volume on. I don't even know why I was as locked into that game, but I watched pretty intently the second half. When Rivera told Greasy and Riddick that the scouting staff gives him an updated breakdown every week, I think on Monday or Tuesday, of the college quarterbacks, that tells you all you need to know, guy. Do you think Andy Reid's getting updates from Veach on college quarterbacks, or McDermott, or Belichick anymore, or even Kyle? Like, no, or McVay. They don't have any picks, but that shows you everything you need to know. And I honestly, that to me, I thought was a very cool, and just like, that's a good inside football nugget. Like, they are trying.
Yeah.
But like, you can football team is trying as hard as you can, and it still might not be enough, right? You just might not get lucky. You might just draft the wrong guy. You might just be stuck with Heineke for 3 or 4 years. I don't think he's a bottom 5 quarterback. Obviously, Derek's better. I mean, Derek's coming back off, I think, one of the most important games of his life, just given that 38 million people watched and he beat the Cowboys, and he made plays with kind of random
And their
guys.
season was, I thought their season was over. Their season was definitely in the balance. From a record standpoint, it was not over. I just thought that they were toast based on the emotions of the year. Like that, too.
Waller's out, though, this week.
Yeah.
I think maybe Raiders beat, it might have been a couple weeks ago, that Mark Davis has gotten his hands in the personnel.
The run, it was last. They were going to run the ball more.
Yeah, I was telling them we need to see that number 28 guy, get him in. Which you've always said, if you were going to be an owner, you would have your hands in. Like, I don't think that's that crazy.
It'd be
but
hard.
is that crazy? Like, to me, that's a
Yeah. He has no football experience.
But guy, when your team's losing, whether you have
Just because you're
experience or
right
not,
doesn't mean it's not kind of crazy. And again, I acknowledge if I were an owner, I'd have a hard time not being like, "Hey, why aren't we running the rock, coach?" But it's kind of nuts.
Well, here's what I would say though, and I will give Mark Davis a pass on this.
You think Gruden's texting him?
His coaches got fired. Like, you're not my offensive coordinator. You weren't the guy I hired to be my offensive coordinator, so I can tell you what to do. He used to. I was told by a very reliable source pre-Gruden, he would yell at coaches on the flight home. I mean, I think you and I have talked about that before, but that clearly stopped with Gruden. I can see that coming back to life a little bit with this crew.
Ew. Yikes. Yeah. Pac-12 title game Friday night. We can talk about that later maybe. I'm fired up for it. Utah, Oregon. Utah favored again, John. Again. Pretty big. I mean, can you beat Utah for the second time? Can you beat Oregon for the second time? Whittingham kind of planting his flag. And like, everyone's always looking at Utah as if they're good for what they are. But they haven't been to a Rose Bowl yet. Beat Oregon twice in 3 weeks when Oregon looks like a top 5, top 4, top 10, whatever team. Go to LA. Like, I think for Oregon, playing in the Rose Bowl this year is a big deal because that game's in Los Angeles, and Lincoln Riley is building his fence right now around the city. And who knows? Maybe you play Ohio State in that game. Iowa. Hopefully not. Iowa wouldn't really. Ohio State twice. Could you beat them again? Michigan, if they were to lose, but I think it's a big deal for Oregon to lose twice. If they were to lose to Utah, to lose twice in 3 weeks and not go to the Rose Bowl, that's a big deal.
How many people, wasn't it like one of the highest rated games for the Pac-12?
5 million.
Yeah. So 5 million people watched him lose 38-7. I thought that was a pretty glaring ass whooping. You're allowed an ass whooping in your lifetime as a coach, but given this scenario where you get to replay the team, you have the superior players in theory. You're a guy that everyone, immediately starts throwing in names to replace Saban one day. LSU should be all over. Florida, Miami would have loved to have. You can't lose twice. Like, you find a way to win this game. I think Utah beats them again. Do you expect Oregon to win this game?
I think Utah wins as well. But
is that a hard one for them to lose twice to Utah in basically a month?
Yeah, I think it'd be hard. No, I think Utah's good.
That'd be pretty sweet for Utah to go to the Rose Bowl. That'd be a big deal for Kyle.
They haven't done it. Now, they've had great years. They went unbeaten and beat Nick Saban in the Sugar Bowl a few years ago when they were still in the Mountain West. But as a Power 5 member to win a conference championship and go to the Rose Bowl, be humongous. And I think from Oregon's standpoint, it's like if you beat Utah, you avenge that loss, you go to the Rose Bowl, you didn't go to the playoff, you had a hell of a year. Like, that's just a hell of a year.
The one thing, and I'm not going to diminish his game against Saban, I do think teams that lose in the SEC championship games, that go to that bowl game that they don't want to go to, it's like we've seen it happen over and over. Again, it sounds like I'm talking shit, and I'm not, because that team, the Boise teams, the team he has now is on a different level, right? I mean, could they beat Ohio State? Because he always has good defenses, right? They can always cover. Ohio State's best attribute is
they're deep.
Receivers.
Utah is deep on the lines.
Would Ohio State take them seriously? That might be an advantage.
That's always a factor. Yeah, I think you're right about those games. I've always felt the way about Boise against Oklahoma. Although Boise people forget kicking Oklahoma's ass before Oklahoma came back.
If Utah were to beat Oregon and then beat Ohio State in the Rose Bowl, that would be the greatest season in program history, right?
Yeah, that's where even though it's not an unbeaten year, and I still think it would, to do it as a Power 5 member and win your league and go to the Rose Bowl, I think that would be pretty.
Well, to beat Ohio State in the Rose Bowl would be the best win in program history. Because even you would be like, well, okay, Alabama slept on you a little bit. No, it's the Rose Bowl. You're just not taking the Rose Bowl seriously. Everyone tries in the Rose Bowl, right? Ohio State would not get a pass in the Rose Bowl. Now, Olave, Wilson, are those guys a lock to play in the Rose Bowl? That would be my question. I don't know if they would be.
Smith and Jigba, like there's 3 of them that guy's a baller.
Those guys are sweet. And the quarterback, I remember the first couple of weeks, like, CJ Stroud, this guy might not be good enough. Then like, you just, even against Michigan, you're like, God, this guy's good. You see the other kid just transferred? The guy that left high school early, goes to Ohio State, but then he couldn't beat out CJ Stroud. I think his name's Jack Miller. Then he goes in the portal. Is that the right kid, or am I talking about someone different?
I don't know. I didn't see who went in the portal. I mean, remember they brought in that early enrollee high school kid from Texas, not him.
Oh, that's not Jack Miller.
No, the kid who just came in from Texas is with the long blonde hair. I forget his name.
Who's from Texas? Jack Miller's from Arizona. I mean, he's born and raised in Arizona, but you're right. The kid from high school was bypassed his senior year somehow, had credits. All of a sudden tells Ohio State like August 12th, I'm just coming. Training camp's already been started, shows up. But I would assume when I saw Jack Miller went in the portal, how's that guy going to play? CJ Stroud's a redshirt freshman. Like, he ain't going anywhere. You're not beating out CJ Stroud this offseason, right? I mean, I thought CJ Stroud in that Michigan-Ohio State game, like, the offense was not their problem. Their offense was fine. It was they couldn't stop anybody. Honestly, Harbaugh, it was different because Oregon ran like it's kind of the Nevada offense, right? The kind of the zone read. They get the edge that way. Harbaugh just like runs power at the edge, but you attack the edges with Ohio State, and Oregon did it, and Harbaugh did it, and they had no answer. Like, they just couldn't stop them.
Yep. And they fired their defensive coordinator after Oregon did it to him. Or not fired, reassigned. He became their like linebacker coach.
Yeah. Harbaugh's running backs are probably I guess C.J. Verdell was a stud too. C.J. Verdell and the two guys.
And the quarterback can run. Right,
Brown.
Anthony Brown, the Oregon quarterback, can run.
That's true. So he was running. Yeah. So they were both.
He did a lot of it.
where Harbaugh just hands it and they hit.
And Troy Dye's a good running back. I mean, but Verdell was that game's dominant running back. Yeah.
Well, did you see? I mean, Haskins had 5 touchdowns. What game? I mean, you know, one thing Harbaugh really talked about. I've watched a bunch of his press conferences after the game, and just kind of reading like the Michigan vibe. I think they really felt good about like their core humans on that team. Like they just had a vibe like we're fucking coming. And they had in their building, he had it printed out, beat Ohio State. Like they didn't even hide from it. Like that was the approach this offseason of like beat Ohio State. And his quote was, "We're going to spend the next 365 days trying to beat Ohio State or die trying." Like they weren't even they were not running from it, which a lot of coaches don't like to do. I give Jim credit. He put all of his chips in the middle of the table about them, and he did it.
Well, it's like you can't hide from it. You cannot hide from it at Michigan. It's what you're getting judged on. It's what you judged yourself on when you were a player there 35 years ago. Right?
Is that the biggest win in the history of his career?
I mean, beating Seattle, going to the Super Bowl.
He didn't beat Seattle.
I'm sorry, beating Green Bay, going to the Super Bowl.
But didn't he beat Atlanta to go to the Super Bowl?
Atlanta with the ticket. Yeah, but I'm just saying like they beat Green Bay and Atlanta, winning on the road. I thought the Green Bay game was pretty big.
Where Kaepernick ran all over.
Yeah,
Stanford, 50-point underdog.
Yeah, that's a significant game against USC.
There was a build-up to this game, though, unlike any of his NFL games. The most build-up he ever had in the NFL game was really the Seattle NFC Championship game, and he lost it.
Yeah, the Stanford game came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
The 49ers thing, they were good right away. There has been, I would say build-up's a good word, like pent-up disappointment and pain. Like he's lost 5 in a row, John, to Ohio State.
Yeah.
They'd lost 8 in a row as a program. So from that standpoint, like, here's Jim Harbaugh.
They don't even count I heard an Ohio State guy's like, we don't even count 2011. We were on probation and Fickle was the interim.
Oh, okay.
So technically they always like, yeah, we won 15 straight. That was their thing.
Well, but Jim Harbaugh, who was like, if you identified people with programs, coaches with programs, Harbaugh, before he even got to Michigan, was identified with Michigan. They've been talking about, they cut his pay last year.
In half.
I mean, like, he's on the hot seat at Michigan.
I listen, it's hard. Every one of his major wins had different contexts. I would put that number 1. Given the reaction, given how important that program is. I mean, Seattle and the Niners were a big rivalry. They don't hold a candle to Michigan, Ohio State. I mean, is that the number 1 rivalry in college football? Even bigger than Auburn, Alabama? Because Auburn's not Alabama. Never has been.
For me, it's the biggest one. Yeah.
So, I think it's the biggest win of his. If you got to factor in all the variables, that's seeing, guy. Did you see Klatt tweeted it out? Them singing Mr. Brightside all on the field.
No,
it was just this is
I gotta
awesome.
go find that.
There won't be a human being. I mean, some of them might be wasted, but they'll be talking about that moment. I was in the stadium when Jim beat Ohio, especially if they went on to win the national championship. I think it's the biggest win of his career if he goes on to win the national championship. Because if he goes on to win the national championship,
I agree with that because he hasn't won a championship yet.
If he goes on to win the national championship and beats Georgia in the national championship, is the Ohio State win bigger than the Georgia win? If he beats them for the championship?
Depends. Like to me, if it's like 24-23, then no. But it probably will be more of a bragging point. Yeah, like Michigan fans, you know what? That's not crazy. It's hard because you can't have it. You need both of them. But I bet if you ask people what's your favorite memory, it would be the Ohio State game.
Here's what I would say. If they make it to the championship and it's Georgia versus Michigan, I think the ticket for that will be astronomical. Because
where's the game this year?
That's a great question. I think both fan bases who haven't won national championships in forever. I mean, Georgia hasn't won since 80. Michigan hasn't won, I don't know, when's the last time they won? The 90s? I think those fan bases will both be like, we're going to win. I'm going to be there when we win the national championship, right? Which I think Alabama, they've got used to it. Clemson got in a weird way. To me, the fervor there, because Georgia people would be like, we're winning it. And Michigan would be like, we're a team of destiny. Yep. If I was a Michigan fan and I made it to the national championship, I would be selling myself. We're gonna beat Georgia. This is Harbaugh's time.
I know what I'd be rooting for. Bad. I don't want Michigan to win. Harbaugh at Michigan is so great for football.
Well, lock of the week. I already think if that plays out and we can get Jim Harbaugh
as an underdog.
What would your guess be on that line? Would Michigan get 5, or is that too many?
Yeah, maybe 4.5. Who have they beaten in the semis? They beat Alabama?
No, let's say Cincinnati and Ohio State or something. That's who those teams beat. Like Georgia.
Right now it's Georgia's 1, Michigan's 2, Alabama's 3, Cincinnati's 4.
Yeah, well, Georgia beats Alabama, they get KO'd. So Oklahoma State, if they beat Baylor, probably goes to 3, and then Cincinnati would go to 4. So let's say Georgia beats
game. Oklahoma State.
You think it'd be? I think it'd be an easy game.
You think Oklahoma State would be easy?
Not easy, but I mean, I think Harbaugh would be a touchdown favorite in that game.
Oh yeah, Oklahoma State's just good on defense.
Yeah, I mean, would you rather play Cincinnati or Oklahoma State?
Probably Cincinnati.
It's hard. I mean, who knows? That's why it's actually going to be kind of fascinating. Because could either of these teams upset? Because they're both going to be underdogs. Harbaugh Gundy for a week talking shit. Pictures of those two guys like a week before at the bowl game,
just Jim just acting aloof constantly. It's so good. Jim's interviews are just well, I'm gonna go celebrate with my team. Like Jenny's not even done with her last question.
You see Juwan Howard trying to talk to him. Jim just doesn't have anything to say back.
his face is unbelievable. His face is just hilarious sometimes.
Oh, you're right. They just came out with it, huh?
Yeah, it's Tuesday night. Yeah, Max says Max on the stream says Harbaugh needs to not blow it against Iowa first.
Pretty big moment right now for Jim's having a good couple week stretch.
You got to win this game though. I'm a little nervous. Saturday's going to be a good.
The Big Ten Championship's always that's a sneaky. Honestly, it's my favorite Saturday championship. Typically,
I just wish they didn't play it indoors. Other than that, it's perfect.
But the SEC championship's indoors too.
I know, but it feels more. The Big Ten feels like it should be played on grass in the snow.
Where do you play Lambeau?
At Northwestern. No, just I'd put it. Big Ten title game. No, I'd put it at Northwestern every year.
You have to admit, at Lambeau, Big Ten
Lambeau
championship
would be sick.
Cool.
Lambeau would be sweet.
You go. What's Nagy's home stadium?
Hallis Hall.
Yeah, whatever. You can play it there. That'd be cool.
Yeah. All right. Did you empty the tank today?
Empty the tank.
Put it all. You can't ever play a perfect game, but you can play with perfect effort.
Yeah.
Soldier Field.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
All right, y'all. Thanks, everybody, for hanging. Later.